Hey guys, what's happening? Thanks for tuning in and coming back today. I appreciate it and hope you're having a great day. I was working with this photo in Luminar and I just kind of started having fun and getting a little creative and doing some color tones that I don't normally do really a whole lot of, and I thought the photo came out pretty cool. So I thought I'd share a little workflow here just in case perhaps it gives you a little idea or two, or maybe some inspiration for your own photos. So here's the base photo, and this was a shot taken in London, and here's the final. So again, the before, if you will, and the after. Now I just finished editing this right before I started recording the video, so I'm a little bit in the honeymoon phase, but I freaking love that. Like, that's cool looking, right? So to me, hope you feel the same way. So let me hop into Luminar and we'll dive into this. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that I did crop it. So you just go to Tools and you go to Crop, and if I hit Reset, there's the original photo shot with my full frame Sony, but I cropped it 16:9 simply because there's a lot of extra space in the water. I don't really care about it, to be honest. With a long exposure, I had all that smooth water, and that was 30 seconds at f8, I believe. Let's see, f8, yep. And it was 30 seconds, and I got 30 seconds because I did a 10-stop filter. I had that on. It was actually like middle of the day, you know, like 2 or 3 p.m. kind of thing. Maybe late in the day, I guess. Anyway, doesn't matter. But that was my base photo. I was standing on the Tower Bridge and just looking at the Shard, which is that tall building there, and that's their city hall on the left. I just like the view. Anyway, I decided to do a long exposure. So the first thing I did when I brought it in here, because I look at it and there's a little bit with the light I don't like, but mostly it's the color tones. And as you know from the final result, I significantly changed the color tones. But with this, as you can see, I added a bit of contrast just to sort of pop that up a little bit of smart tone, and then you can see I took the highlights down. So tone brought me from there to there. A little bit darker, which I kind of like. Here, just a smidge of structure, and that is global. It's going across the whole photo, but I'm creating a little bit of crunch, for lack of a better word, in the buildings primarily. And while I could mask it in, I chose not to. I just let it go everywhere because it also gives a little bit of texture to the clouds. A lot of which I'll actually remove later, so I'll show you that. Similar thing, just a smidge of clarity, so that's just a little bump. And what clarity does is it gives you, it creates a little edge contrast, and so that's going to basically create a little bit of depth. So I rarely go real high with clarity. Like, I don't want to do that. That's a little too much for me. So clarity, I think I was at 15. It's just a little bit of bump, just to give it just a smidge, right? And so then this is where I started to get into the colors. To me, that was all like the detail and sort of the light. If you saw my old video a year or so ago, I generally think in terms of light and detail and color, kind of in that order. Now, every video I do isn't done that way simply because A, I don't do every photo that way. I do a lot of them that way. But B, is I want to show you some variety. I don't want to create the perception that you got to do things the way I do them. I just like to share tips and tricks. So I hope you find your own best methods, and you'll come up with stuff that I never thought of, I'm sure. And that's part of the fun of Luminar. There's so much you can do. You can just mess around and come up with stuff. So here's where I said, I kind of want to experiment with some color tones and see what I come up with. And so I use cross-processing. Now, a few videos back, I did a sunset, and I used the Seattle setting in cross-processing to give it that nice pink color. But in this case, I used Miami, and Miami gave it that nice blue and kind of that steel gray blue, and I like that, especially in cityscapes. And this is London, so generally it's kind of overcast. It's not a place that you go to like watch the sunset every night, right? It's generally kind of cloudy and stuff. I love it. I love the mood there. Frankly, I love the town. It's just amazing. But I thought cross-processing, and specifically the Miami setting, brought that up. So I put that on at about 25. But I wanted to get a little bit of color and warmth to it as well. So I added golden hour. So that was a global adjustment. And it gave it a little bit of yellow in the sky, which, I do want to separate. So when I turn that off, the tones are very similar to me between the buildings. By the way, those buildings actually are that blue color, so it's very similar to what they look like. But with the Miami setting on cross-processing, I kind of got the water and the sky all the same color, and I want to get a little variety. So golden hour gave me a little bit more kind of yellow in the sky, but the big adjustment was split toning, and that was a big difference. And so I like that. So I've talked about split toning a lot. In fact, the recent video I did about what I consider the 10 best filters, that's one of them. It's just because it gives you so much control over the colors. And you can separate it by highlights and shadows. And so in this case, I took the hue of the highlights and left it kind of in the reddish pink, and then moved the saturation of that. And then I went kind of into the blues for the shadows, which is kind of accentuating the color that's already existent in that kind of thin strip through kind of the middle of, which is the buildings, and then of course the shard. But it also picks up some of the water. So it really played well here. But then I did something I don't normally do, and that is I moved the balance slightly more to the highlights. I gave it a little bit more of that pink, that pink tint from the highlights across more of the photo. And so that's a cool thing you can do with split toning, is adjust the balance. So if you I don't do it a lot, just to be honest, but what it allows you to do is say, well, I want to tip the balance in favor of either the shadows color or the highlights color. That's basically tipping the scales, right? So I tip the scales toward highlights to give it a little bit more of that pink. And there's the before, really desaturated, kind of futuristic looking, and then the after, starting to get a little bit of that pink, and that's where I'm getting kind of the bicolor look, where I'm kind of the reddish pink, if you will, and then the steel gray kind of blue. Anyway, I like it. Next up was adjustable gradient, and that made a fairly decent impact, I think, on the photo. As you can see here for the top, I added some contrast and some vibrance, and then on the bottom, I did the same thing with a slight bump in exposure too. And so that made a pretty big difference. There's the before, and there's the after. The contrast that I used, did I use that on top as well? Yeah, contrast on top and bottom. That contrast is creating some of that darkness. It almost looks like I added a vignette, but as you can see, no vignette. It's just the difference in contrast in the top and bottom. So it helps me in that way. And whenever you change contrast, by the way, it makes colors pop a little bit more. And so that's something that I basically took advantage of here. And then the last move was really negative structure. And so that was basically, I went negative 100 on the amount of structure, and then I moved boost a little bit to the right. And what that does is create a softness in the photo. I talk about this all the time, so if you're a repeat viewer, and I hope you are, and hello again, you've heard me say this a million times. For those of you that haven't heard me talk about this, then I basically take structure and go negative, and it allows me to create a really soft look. Instead of going to the right or positive with structure, creates kind of that crunchy look. The left makes it very soft. And then I just took the brush and I just erased it from the buildings and the little things in the water there. So I basically softened up the sky and the water. And what that did is, it was already a long exposure, so at 30 seconds, even without that, the water is pretty smooth, but it has a little bit of texture to it. Some of that's probably from the structure that I used up above and the clarity and things like that. But this is my final step where I come in with the negative structure and just totally smooth that out. And so it makes the water look even smoother than it was with the 30-second exposure. And the same with the sky. It makes it look like even a longer exposure than it was. So here's the before and after. You can see we changed quite a bit. It was kind of grayish brown. And now we kind of have a little bit of a sunset look, but I really like the play of colors, kind of that pink against the blue. And that's it. That's all my filters. So one more time, before and after, and here's the split, before and after. A lot of good fun there. Split toning is massively helpful, and on long exposures, I use that negative structure trick a lot. If you don't shoot long exposures, I recommend trying it out. It's really fun. It's literally a completely different way of shooting, and I've grown to love it. It may be my favorite thing now, more so than a lot of other things. And so whenever possible, especially if you have clouds that are moving, you can get nice streaky clouds. If you get water, you can get really smooth water, and then you can use these tricks like negative structure to smooth them out, make them look even more sort of glistening and sharp, and well, not sharp, the opposite of sharp, smooth, I guess, and just beautiful. So that's how I did it. I hope it's helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this video. And thanks for watching and tuning in, coming back. Subscribe, like, share. If you don't mind, help me out. I'd appreciate it. And if you missed that last video I did about my, maybe 2 videos back about the preset pack, there's a link in the comments about how to get to that preset pack. And for some reason, it fell off the Skyloom website. It was there for like 12 hours or 10 hours, and then it fell off. I don't know when it's coming back. Hopefully soon. Maybe it's back already. Either way, you can get to it directly in that link. It's a new preset pack of mine. It's pretty cool stuff. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Have a great day. I'll see you soon. Take care. Adios.